got 'em out the block where we really gang. Where we don't never speak a word, we just let it bang. That's life up in the matter whether we could never hang. It's that before dishonor, swear to God I'll never rank. And boy, I'll never break, I'm built for this just like a tank. You diss me once, homie, you won't get another chance. And I won't even speak a word, I'll just let it blast. I put that on the vital, homie, that I'm down to smash. And you come and test the water, see if it don't crack. And real G's never switch up, never take the stand. A real G keeps it solid, never rolls with rats. I'm true to the code, homie, never looking back. And ain't no dirt up in my name, homie, those are facts. I keep it G, homie, I don't ever have to act. Ain't nothing like these suckers on the net that spitting cats. Boosting up their name for the fame is considered trash. You already knew on where I stand. With the homies posted in the vital daily packing straps. Boy, la vida loca, it be crazy in my habitat. Dead before dishonor is my code and ain't no turning back. Dead before dishonor is my code and ain't no turning back.
G-File.
Now this area right here is a little bit more jam-packed with neighborhoods. You know, what's known as the Desert Hot Springs area. Right here is really active, you know what I mean? In these locations, you know, you have several neighborhoods within this area that call it home and, you know, represent, you know what I mean? One of the most known and dominant ones that gives law enforcement a hard time, that has made the news several times. One of the neighborhoods that's well established right here, you know what I mean? You know, that people recognize is the West Drive Locals. That's that WD neighborhood, or WDLS, how you see it up. West Drive Locals is a pretty old school neighborhood that has already been established right here within the late 70s, early 80s when this neighborhood was established. Now, their territory was from, I would say from Chola Drive all the way to Pearson Boulevard. From Pearson Boulevard all the way to Palm Boulevard. And yeah, so everything that's in the middle is what's considered their neighborhood, which is a pretty vast chunk size of territory, you know what I mean? All the way to right there to two Bunch Palms Trail. You know, so like I said, it's a pretty big chunk size of territory. Right there near the skate park is also where you can find them hanging out, you know, by Hacienda Avenue. You know, it's an avenue that stretches throughout their neighborhood right there, you know, by Desert View Avenue. All of that is what's considered their neighborhood, you know what I mean? A pretty big chunk size of territory, and it does get on and cracking right here. This neighborhood has been hit with sweeps and, you know, and all of that, you know. You know, because like I said, there's several neighborhoods within this area. They're not the only one, because there's another neighborhood that intertwines right there with theirs, and then you have the Brown Towns right there. And like I said, it just gets on and cracking, homie, you know what I mean? There's a lot of action up on this side, and West Drive Locals is one of these neighborhoods as, you know, in the mix and definitely well known, you know, within this area. You know, it's one of the, you know, more neighborhoods that's recognized, and they continue to represent theirs and put theirs on the map and holding it down for theirs, you know. Another neighborhood that's located over here in this region, you have the BTL neighborhood. Now, the BTL neighborhood translating to the Browntown Locals. Now, I know I have mentioned Browntown before on this channel, you know, like the Browntown Traviesos, just Browntown, then Browntown Locals. There's different Browntown gangs within California, so it's a commonly used names that you'll be hearing a few more times on here. But it's just that they have the same name and abbreviations, but they have nothing in common, you know what I mean? It's just one of those names that gets used, you know, often, kind of like Brown Pride does, like Wicked Minds, Tokers, and a few other neighborhoods that just happen to have the same common name, but they're different neighborhoods. So Browntown Locals, this one right here has no relationship to the other ones. You know, it just happen to have the same common name. You know what I mean? And they're the second largest up here when we're talking about Hispanic gangs. You know, next to West Drive, and West Drive and them definitely have beef. You know, because their neighborhoods stay really, really close to each other. You know what I mean? So, you know, makes it, you know, a lot of tensions between these neighborhoods. Now, their neighborhood was located from Palm Drive all the way to Camino, from Camino all the way to Dillon Road, from Dillon Road all the way to Bowling Wells. So everything that's in the middle, which we're talking about a pretty large chunk size of territory with a lot of homes, you know, because there's nothing but cul-de-sacs there and housing units and all of that, you know what I mean? So we're talking about a large residence right there that they you know, call their neighborhood. So these guys ain't no chumps, ain't no pushovers, you know. These guys are definitely with the business. they hold it down. You know what I mean? They've been already right here since I was told since the late 90s, early 2000s, when this neighborhood was established. So it's not that old school, but the neighborhoods all over here aren't really that old school as it is. You know what I mean? And they're large, but still, like compared to other neighborhoods, like in Riverside or the IE or Los Angeles, they're more smaller. But for this area, being out here, like kind of in the desert and a little pricey. They're large for the size that they got. You know what I mean? Because in Desert Hot Springs alone, they have record of just the record that the law enforcement have. I read that they had about 203 gang members, registered gang members. That's just the ones that they have in record. So that already lets you know that these neighborhoods do have they do have members. You know what I mean? They do get a pretty decent size, even if the neighborhood is only like about 60 heads. 60 heads is already a lot. When we're talking about neighborhoods over here on this side, due to the area. But yeah, Brown Pride locals definitely be right there representing, holding it down. One of these neighborhoods that don't play around. These guys ain't no joke. It be cracking out here. You know what I mean? And like I said, definitely war between them and West Drive. So it be going down over here. But that's what's up with the BTL neighborhood right there, representing for Brown Pride and putting theirs on the map. Another neighborhood that you have right here within this area of Desert Hot Springs, but is not originally from here, but that migrated over here, is the TCB neighborhood. Now, the TCB neighborhood, I was told that it was a tag banging crew that was in the Los Angeles area that just happened to land over here on this side. Was known as Ironwood Drive, so was Chola all the way to Palm Drive, and from Palm Drive all the way to Two Punch Palm, and everything that extends from Ironwood Drive from there, which is a pretty decent sized chunk of territory. Is where you can find the TCB standing for True Crime Boys. Like I said, used to be a tag banging crew that became a neighborhood. So they're not that old school. Roughly only been around since the late 90s, early 2000s. But they give law enforcement a hard time. You do see the activity by these guys. I was told that they're roughly like about more than 50 heads. So for a gang in this side of the area, it's pretty large. Because all these neighborhoods are roughly more smaller within this area. Due to it being expensive and it being out here in the desert and all that, you know what I mean? But don't ever get it twisted. That doesn't mean anything. These guys are about their business. They will handle business and they get it on and cracking. Continue to represent theirs and function right there and put theirs on the map and represent for their neighborhood right there. What's known as the True Crime Boys right there. Now here we have the BSR neighborhood. Now the BSR neighborhood translating to the San Rafas. Now San Rafas standing for San Rafael Street, which is a street that it's a drive, but same thing. It extends throughout their neighborhood. So the neighborhood is from San Rafael. So from Sunrise Way to San Rafael, I would say all the way to Solona Trail, and from Solona Trail all the way to Avenida San Gabriel Road. So everything that's in the middle is considered their territory, which is a pretty vast, chunk of territory, throughout Blue Moon Road, throughout Mountain Shadow, throughout Twin Star Road, all of that is, considered their neighborhood. There's a lot of, homes and affordable homes over here is where that Raza came to when they landed over here on this side. And then due to racism reasons, these groups had to band together to fend for themselves. And then it just spirals out of control because the San Rafael Street neighborhood is very notorious, one of the largest in this area, one of the more known neighborhoods in this area, has made the news several times, from some of these reports that I put up here, due to racketeering, murder, arms sale, drug sale, the works. Law enforcement has been combating this neighborhood already for quite some time. Like I said, they get it on and crack it, man. These guys ain't no slouches, homie. They keep it active. For people to think otherwise is ridiculous. I mean, you can see, you can look for the reports yourself, that law enforcement has hit them with all kinds of motions to try to slow them down. The San Rafael Street neighborhood is not playing. They do get it on and cracking, and continue to do so. Have been right here doing it since the 80s, and continue to do so. That's pretty much how it goes down right here. So this is one of the more recognized neighborhoods on this side, with a pretty decent sized chunk of territory next to from the reports it says that next to Dream Homes, this is the other neighborhood that gives law enforcement a hard time. But that's what's up with the San Rafael Street right there. Continue to hold it down and represent for theirs right there. Here's one of the more new school neighborhoods. You have the OCLS neighborhood. OCLS translating to Old City Locals. Old City Locals is a neighborhood that was established in the 90s, right here near the Desert Park area. The neighborhood, consists of Sunrise all the way to Joy Drive, and from that all the way to Whitewater, and to East Via. So everything that's in the middle is considered their neighborhood, which is a pretty vast chunk of territory. You know what I mean? But even though they have a vast chunk of territory, they're not as deep or as large as some of these other neighborhoods. They're just kind of like scattered throughout, because I was told this neighborhood is only roughly about 80 members. So sprinkled throughout, that vast, amount of territory. So not as large or, recognized as some of these other sets. But nonetheless, that is who they are. They are a real neighborhood. They were started in the high school due to racism, from African Americans. But they handle their own. From reports, law enforcement considers them more like hoodlums and vandals and stuff like that. But nonetheless, homie, they handle their business and continue to do so and represent for theirs. You know what I mean? Right there in the old city, and still putting theirs on the map and continue to represent theirs. But that's what's up with the Old City Locals right there.